Hi, I'm Jeff Hoyt, Editor-in-Chief of SeniorLiving.Org. Gracie Nebel has been sharing a host of insider tips based on our experience at senior living communities. Gracie is the Vice President of Operations and Sales and Marketing at Melody Living, a senior living community with locations in Colorado and Illinois. First, she revealed how to research senior living communities to find the perfect new home for your loved one. You can see this part of my talk with the senior living expert here. Then, Gracie shared her insights on what to do and look for as you tour the senior living facilities where you're considering moving your loved one in this video. And once you made your final decision, Gracie explained how to prepare for the move in this video. And today, to conclude the process, Gracie is sharing her insider tips on how to make the most of your loved one's first 30 days in their new senior living community. If you want your loved one happy in their new home, then pay attention to what Gracie has to offer. Hey, it's Jeff Hoyt, Editor-in-Chief of SeniorLiving.Org. And today, once again, I have the pleasure of speaking with Gracie Nebel. Gracie is the Vice President of Operations and Sales and Marketing for Melody Living. They're a senior living community that has both assisted living and memory care locations in Colorado and Illinois. Good to see you again, Gracie.
Hey, Jeff, great to see you too.
So we've talked about doing research, finding the right home for a loved one, let's say mom, finding a senior living community for her, and how to do the research and how to tour the different candidates once you narrow down your search. And then finally, once you have it, what you can do to help smooth the transition before moving day. But let's say moving day is here. You've gotten the furniture in, you've signed the paperwork, mom's had her first meals there. Let's say the first month of her stay at this new senior living community. What can we do? What should we be looking at? What do we stay focused on to make sure that mom is acclimating to her new environment?
It is a big transition, and you just want to think about that a lot because it like I said, it's a big transition, and there's a lot going on emotionally as well as health wise. There's a reason that the decision had to be made for this next step in their journey, and so one of the fears that's just common that we see quite frequently is the individual mom is made thinking that, well, they're just trying to get me out of the way, and they're going to forget about me once they put me in here. So it's so important to take the time to help reassure that that is not the case at all. The situation has just warranted some additional support needed, and that's what your goal and your focus is. And so maybe some of the things that can be done to help reassure mom or dad or grandparent that they're still going to stay connected, or you're going to stay connected with them. One of the recommendations I have is, before the day of move-in actually, is to connect with other siblings or other family members that live nearby, friends of mom, dad, grandparents that live nearby as well, and come up with a visitation, rotation, so that, because you still realize there are, folks still have other things going on in their lives. But you again need to be mindful of mom, dad's feelings as well. So just connect and maybe set up a rotation of different days and times of the day that you can all visit. I would even suggest getting a calendar, for maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks, and outline, who's going to come on what days, what time, whether you're going to join for a meal or just stop by for a visit. Highlight, identify those dates and times on a calendar and highlight it and give that to mom or dad, and let them know, so that way, they can be excited about the visit and plan for it as well. But it's going to also be important to keep those commitments, because the last thing you want to do is to give them cause, to go back to the thought of or feeling of abandonment. So it's really important that if you set the date to come visit, that you stick to it, or if you're not able to, that you find somebody else who can take your place. It just really helps with, like I said, the acclimation and the feeling or thought of abandonment, reassuring that that is most definitely not the case. And then, just make sure to maybe set it, like, mom, every Sunday we're going to come visit you, we're going to have lunch with you, or we'll bring pizza. We know that was your favorite meal, or what we always did before you moved here. Keeping those traditions is as important too, to bringing normalcy to their new place and new environment that they're living in. Some other things to be mindful of after mom or dad has moved in, a couple of different areas. One is from a health perspective. Again, most typically there was something that was going on from a health perspective that drove the decision for this next step for your loved one. And so you want to make sure that those things are going to be taken care of, whether it was, perhaps mom just had a condition that needed, more stringent monitoring. And most communities have on-site care staff 24/7. So you want to make sure and ask. There's typically a director of nursing or somebody who's over the clinical department, the care staff of the community. So connecting with them right away after mom moves in is really important. You want to ask the questions that you may have. You want to know, how is the care staff going to know what mom's care needs are? Does she need help getting dressed in the morning? Does she need help with bathing for safety purposes? How is the care staff going to find that out? And so it's okay to ask that question, because again, you want to be reassured that mom isn't just moving in and, nobody's going to know what she needs help with. And then you want to know, so once mom gets moved in, how often are you going to be taking a look at her care needs or assessing her care needs? She may go in needing more support just because she wasn't getting it at home on a consistent basis. But once they move in and they start getting, whether it's their medications more consistently, they're eating more nutritional meals, things are balancing out. And maybe she doesn't need as much support as she did when she first moved in. So how does that process work? How do you identify on an ongoing basis what mom's care needs are? And if they change for the better or for the worse, how does that get identified? So you'll want to ask, when, at what points does mom get assessed? Most communities do an assessment once mom moves in on the day of moving, just to confirm what her needs are. They create a care plan that is shared with the care staff to let them know, all her what's specific to her. And it should be really very specific to her. And they should know, they should ask the questions like, well, what time of the morning does mom typically get up? Does she like to eat breakfast? Does she get up later and maybe just go down for dinner or for lunch? So all those specific questions should be asked when mom gets moved in, so that they can cater the service plan and her care needs to her, and not the other way around, meaning, saying, well, everybody has to wake up at 7 o'clock because breakfast starts at 7:30. You want to make sure that they're going to cater to her needs and not the other way around. Then you also want to make sure, okay, like I said, how frequently is the assessment going to happen? And how will I know when that assessment is done and what the results of it are? So again, the director of nursing should be able to share with you their timeline for all those steps. Again, typically it's the day of move-in. Most communities do another one within 30 days, because like I said, it has given them the opportunity to stabilize any things that maybe weren't occurring on a consistent basis. Again, medications being taken appropriately, exercise happening, nutritional meals being given. It can help stabilize a lot of the prior situations or care needs mom may have had. And so in 30 days, they've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with her and get to know her, see her day in and day out, and say, well, mom came in needing help getting dressed, but she's had some therapy, over the last few weeks. She's getting her medications, she's eating well, and now she can do it on her own. So her care needs may lessen, or they may realize she actually has more services or support needs than we anticipated when she first moved in. And they typically do a care assessment again in 30 days. And they should invite the family, the power of attorney, to that meeting, to that care plan meeting, where they discuss, this is what we've identified. This is where mom was before. This is where she is now. And this is the new support that she's going to be receiving moving forward. Typically, assessments are done and care plans are reviewed at least at a minimum once a quarter. But sooner if a significant change happens, hopefully not, but if mom experiences a fall, that might drive a need for increased care support. So, but asking those questions so you know what to anticipate, and you can mark your personal calendar and say, hey, it's been actually 45 days or almost 2 months and I haven't heard from anyone. So that way you can trigger yourself to remember, these significant questions to ask. Other things to look for and to ask for, if maybe mom has special dietary needs, maybe she's diabetic, maybe she has a cardiac history and needs to watch her salt intake. So I strongly suggest to ask for a meeting with the culinary director to ask specifically, like, how will my mom know, how will she get the diet that she needs? If she should be watching her sugar intake, how does that happen? Do you monitor that for her? Does she need to choose certain items off the menu that are lower in sugar? Are those items notated on the menu so she knows what to choose? How frequently do you change your menu options? So these are all questions. Again, I strongly recommend that you ask for that meeting with the culinary director so that you can get educated, and include mom in that meeting so that she can know too, because of course she's the one that's going to be there every day. So you want to make sure that she knows, if she's not finding items on the menu that are appealing to her, she can know who to go to, how that process works if she needs to ask for something different. So that's another item to keep track of as well, because you want to make sure, again, she's getting her nutritional values met as she's there throughout her stay. Another important thing to do is maybe mom has some upcoming appointments with her physicians or specialists that were already in place. So it's important to inform the community about these, who the doctors are. If there's information that needs to be sent to certain physicians or specialists, you want to make sure they have that information. If there's upcoming appointments and maybe you're not going to be able to take mom, how does that work? Do they provide transportation assistance? Do they provide someone who can go with mom to make sure that, any information, any new prescriptions or what have you, don't get lost in the shuffle? So those are things to be mindful as well. Again, if you have those dates in front of you or with you, make sure you give those to the community. Make sure you ask those questions of, what happens if I can't take mom, or can someone take mom and I'll meet her there? So just to get those things out of the way, or even if it's 3 or 4 months down the road, I strongly suggest you go ahead and put those on their calendar as well.
So a lot of the focus you've had for this first 30 days is the health of your loved one, which is obviously of paramount importance. But what about socially? Is she making new friends? Is she spending her days in her room watching cable TV, or is she going to activities? What should we do about that in the first 30 days?
Absolutely. Because it's all connected, meaning her health is important, absolutely, but the social aspect of that has a huge impact on that health well-being as well. So yeah, you want to ask questions, you want to check in with mom, but ask the staff too, like, ask mom, is she making new friends? Sir, ask for specifics about where did you meet them? What do you guys have in common? I'd love to meet them. Maybe schedule one of your visits where you can have that individual or individuals join you for a meal. And so you can get to know them too. The more connected you can be with their friends will help that adjustment as well. And it'll help you, stay on point with them as well. So if you go in and you see maybe their friend Jerry sitting in the bistro, you can ask her, hey, so when's the last time you and mom got together to play cards? I know it's what you love to do. So it's really just a way of touching point on, your mom's acclimation to the community, and making sure, because sometimes maybe Jerry will share, well, actually, you know what, I haven't seen her in a couple of weeks. I don't know what's going on. And so it's an opportunity for you to go in and say, hey mom, when's the last time you saw Jerry? Everything going okay? So just staying connected with the individuals that she's meeting, and hopefully connecting with herself in her new community. It's also important to find out if they're joining in on the activities that are happening. Most communities have a format where they meet with the residents to find out their likes, their interests, their hobbies, things that they can fill the activity calendar with. And so you want to make sure that your mom's hobbies, her likes are incorporated into that calendar. So suggestion would be, when you first move in, is to get a copy of the activity calendar, sit down with mom, go over what's happening in the upcoming week, circle some items that she finds interesting, and then keep a copy for yourself as well, because that way, maybe every Thursday they have bridge club, and mom has always loved bridge. So maybe if you're talking to mom on Wednesday evening, you can say, hey mom, remember tomorrow is bridge club at 10 a.m. Make sure you don't miss it, set your alarm. So the more you're informed on the activities that you guys sat and went through and identified that interested her, you can just help remind her of those things. But also, if you find that there's not a lot of items to circle that interest her, you can, recommend a connection, or again, even ask to speak to the activity director and share with them, what are some interests that mom have, things that maybe they can look to incorporate into the next month's calendar. Sometimes they can accommodate more expediently, but maybe they don't have that opportunity or whatever, but they can incorporate it into the following month's calendar. And I think this will help once, mom does that. And again, include mom in the conversation so that she can know who to go to and who to give her ideas or suggestions to, or if they have a formal meeting on a monthly basis to review the activities and, have the residents bring forward ideas or suggestions, she'll know when that is as well. It's so important that she, again, stay engaged and get out and get involved in the things that are happening, but it's equally important that there are things that interest her, and encourage her, maybe even encouraging her to try new things. It's a great opportunity. Great, you have a friend who maybe likes art class, maybe she's never even tried it before. Great time to do that. It's right there, it's accessible. So getting new interest in line is equally important for mom. And then just finally, just looking, does mom look happy? When you see her, is she smiling? Is she happy to see people? People know her. And I would even ask the staff that, the care team, the team in the dining room, is mom socializing with the other residents during meals? Is she enjoying herself? Does she look happy? Is she happy? These are the things to be asking and looking for. And if not, then you can, these are things you can bring to the care plan, to the table during the care plan meeting, and say, well, I've noticed mom's not, really actively participating. How can we work together to make that happen? Do we need to look at, again, new activities? Do we need to look at, finding other residents that share similar interests that we can connect her with? What can we do to help mom get more engaged in the community life? So all these things are things aside from the medical, the healthcare related items that, again, can have a significant impact in mom's successful acclimation and transition to her new environment.
Some children may have trouble doing this, but you talked about the bridge club, tell mom to set the alarm because it's tomorrow. Is it ethically okay? Is it recommended that after the bridge club meeting to go to the activities director and check to see if mom actually did show up?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it can be, there's a lot of emotion. And so sometimes mom may not paint the full picture. She may say, oh yeah, I went, and maybe she went and sat for 5 minutes and then left. And so again, the way to truly get to the root of mom's successful transition is just asking the questions, and finding out, if she says she went, but then saying, hey, was mom engaged? Did she play? Or do you guys have tournaments? So again, it's just all part of helping her have a successful transition. And I know some, they may feel like, well, I don't want to spy on her. And it really isn't about that. It's just, again, doing everything that's accessible to you to help her be successful. Because at the end of the day, you as the adult child want to have peace of mind also that you made the right choice. And I also want to point out, Jeff, it could take, honestly, anywhere from 3 to 6 months for mom, dad to fully get acclimated into the community, to get their circle of friends really solid, to get their routine, down, to get into the mix of the community life, of not being afraid to try new things. So it could take a while. And so it may be in the first 30, 45, 60 days, mom seems to still be struggling. That can be just a natural part of the transition. So don't give up, stay focused on asking the questions, and again, honestly, a lot of times the frontline staff, the care staff, like I said, the the servers in the culinary department, the housekeepers, these are the individuals that mom typically, form strong bonds with, because they see them more often than anyone. So even asking them, maybe go to the department director, go to the nursing director, go to the culinary director and say, can we please, have some of these staff join us for a meeting? I just want to hear from them what they think or how they think mom is doing. Because a lot of times that the resident will confide in these individuals that they see more frequently, and they can give you a better idea of what they see or how they see mom acclimating or not acclimating, or what mom may be struggling with, what she's doing well. And it's just additional resources to help, drive a stronger, more successful transition. But again, want to point out, it could take a good 3 to 6 months for things to really feel settled for mom.
And there are some seniors who would never complain and just say everything's fine, even when it isn't. And then there are others who would complain about everything, even if they're naturally happy. So you're recommending going to a third party, going to the directors of certain departments and talking to them and getting their feedback, not just taking mom's word as for granted.
Absolutely. And I also, if mom is coming to you with concern saying, oh, I hate the food, or they never serve anything I like, because you don't want to make her mom feel like you're checking up on her, and saying, well, my mom said, I would, like I said, I would say, well, mom, you know what, that's really an important part of your day. And that's a big reason why we brought you to the community, because you just weren't eating as nutritionally as you should. The doctor said you were, taking in too much sodium, or whatever the situation may be. And just say, you know what, this is really important. It's important to you, so it's important to me. So I'm going to reach out to the culinary director, and we're going to set a meeting, because I want to make sure that your voice is being heard, and that, you feel like you have input on what's being served, and that you have options to choose from. And sometimes that'll air some things out, meaning they may say, well, no, it's not all so bad. Or they may really appreciate it and said, yes, I want that support. They may not feel confident enough yet to initiate that conversation. So the support from the adult child from that perspective would be greatly appreciated. But like you said, sometimes it may just air out the possibility that, maybe, mom's stretching the truth a little bit, and maybe it's not as bad as she's painting a picture.
We talked earlier about how having mom pick the place where she's going to live, the senior living community, and pick some of the furniture that's going to go with her. Her having the agency is really important to the process. She should also know who she should complain to about, hey, they're not serving my favorite foods, or hey, there aren't, I thought there'd be a book club, there isn't a book club, so that she can advocate for herself. It's not just the adult children going and saying, hey, can you help my mom, but helping her to speak on her own behalf, and knowing who to contact within the community would also reap some benefits, I would imagine.
It's a good time to get that off to the right foot is that very first meeting with the nursing director. A lot of communities, and if they don't do this, they should, or you can ask of it, meaning, for example, what we do is it's what we call a roundtable. And so within the first, typically 48, 72 hours, the entire leadership team, from the executive director to the culinary director, the maintenance director, every director of any department in the community sits with the resident. And this is typically a good, and the family, anybody from the family that wants to join. And they each take their turn, introducing themselves, what they're there to do and how they're there to serve the resident. And to your point, like if they have a question about something, who they can go to, if maybe their sink is leaking in their apartment, what do they do? How do they get it fixed? So they walk through all these possible, not every single possible scenario, but basically who to go to for what, and there's a notebook, there's a book that they get that outlines, because we don't expect them to remember everything, but it outlines like the go-to people and the go-to processes for things like that. You have a question about the menu, who is the culinary director? How do I get a hold of them? We have monthly, what we call foodie meetings. When are they? Are they, typically it's like the third Wednesday of every month. So we outline all that for the individual. And this is a great resource, again, for them to go back and reference not only the resident themselves, but the family also. So they can check on that. If for some reason mom's saying, well, they said they're having these foodie meetings, but they haven't run one yet. So it's a great resource tool for both the resident and the family. So, I would ask the community, is this something we can get? Again, a lot of them most likely have something in place already. But if not, I would suggest that, you ask for this information as a go-to. So as you indicated, the resident can start building confidence in advocating for themselves and knowing who to go to for what, if they have any questions.
And I would assume many facilities, even if there's too many people for her to keep track of, it's like go to the front desk or call the front desk and say, hey, here's the issue. Who do I go to? And they will steer her in the right direction.
Absolutely. I tell you what, those front desk folks are probably the most resourceful individuals in the community. If you need to know something, they're typically the person to go to.
Well, great. Anything else to add about the first 30 days to make your loved one's transition to a senior living community easier?
No, don't. Again, my advice is just don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be, nip it in the bud. If mom expresses a question or concern and they feel like they haven't gotten their answer, it's don't feel like you're being demanding. You're just, again, you're helping advocate for your loved one's best interest. You made this choice based on your research. So, don't be afraid to stand up for your loved one, for their rights. And just again, at the end of the day, everybody's goal should be a successful transition and acclimation into their new community life.
Well, I want to thank you for helping people make the transition successful with all your insider tips. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time, Gracie.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Happy to help.